All right, welcome to another experimental Emacs Hangout. Today is April 15, 2015, and we have a whole bunch of well, people on the line. If you're viewing this, you can look at the event page for the URL to click on so that you can join. If you have questions, you can always submit them through the text chat. If you are in the chat, you can also speak up and just say things, or you can leave a comment on the event page, and I can keep a lookout for those and deal with those. So basically, an Emacs Hangout is a bunch of us just hanging out and talking about Emacs. Whether you've got this cool thing that you discovered and you want to share with other people, or you're wondering how other people would solve something, or write Emacs lists to solve something, anything is fair game. Couple of other housekeeping things. The next one is on April 30, so the event page will have a link to the next one as well. And then we can just kick it off with a quick round of introductions. If you say who you are and where you're from, sometimes that means other people will go, holy cow, there's another Emacs user insert obscure city here, and then organize a meetup. So I'm Sasha Chua. I am based in Toronto. Let's go like in order of the people I can see here. Dylan.
Okay, I'm Dylan Fiddicky. I'm from Australia, as you can probably tell from the accent. Probably the only Emacs user within a few hundred kilometres. I'm a system administrator, IT consultant, and I'm a Linux man who works on a Mac, and I maintain Windows systems. So I'm a bit schizophrenic in that way, I suppose, but that's me.
That's okay. I'm on Windows too. So yeah, Howard.
Oh, I didn't know which way it was. But yes, I'm Howard. I am from Portland, Oregon.
There's another Howard also, so this is slightly confusing. But the other Howard can now introduce himself.
I'm terribly sorry.
No, I actually meant you.
Howards around.
I do, but yes, now we have another Howard, so we will disambiguate you some other way. But yes, second Howard.
Hi, I'm new to all this. I'm in Boston, although I'm a very long-time Emacs user, but I haven't been using it extensively for programming in a while, so I'm new to a lot of the new packages.
Cool. Ian?
Sorry, was that me?
Yes.
Hey guys, I'm Ian. American, actually living in Tokyo. I'm working as a game developer in the Japanese games industry. I'm a freelancer right now. And before hopping over here, I was based in California for the better part of a decade. Long time, kind of casual Emacs user. I'm the proverbial intermediate user, I guess. But lots of old, terrible workflows that I'd like to improve. And since going freelance about a year ago, I've really started in on just trying to master my tools a little bit better and trying to use Emacs a little more efficiently and a little more smart. So it's part of why I'm here.
Awesome. And Sean?
I'm Sean. I'm also in Toronto. Yes, also sort of the proverbial intermediate user. I've been looking at doing more and more in org mode and enjoying it. But yeah, I'm eager to pick up more tips and information. So.
All right, and Zachary.
Hey, I just got in. What are we talking?
We're doing the quick round of introductions, name, location, and other interesting things about what you want to learn. I don't know, stuff like that.
Cool. So I'm Zachary. I'm in New York City. And yeah, I mean, I'm interested in org mode. I've been kind of starting to pick up more about it. Recently started using org agenda after the last one of these. That's been pretty cool. Oh, also I've been going to the New York Emacs meetup a lot, and one of the co-founders just left, so they asked me to step up as one of the co-organizers of that. So you should come to it if you're local.
Good for you. Awesome.
Wish I could.
That's why we're, kind of making things up with a virtual hangout, because New York is like an 8-hour bus trip, which is still a bit much, although, I don't know, it's cool. Speaking actually of physical get-togethers, this Emacs conference idea thing, sometime maybe August or later, depending on how things work out, might actually happen, since a bunch of other people, including Samra Masterson, have actually started doing the proper organizery things of looking for potential venues and sponsors and whatever. I'm still definitely going to, I want to have a live stream, at least for the rest of us who can't really travel around the world or whatever, don't like doing so. But hey, who knows? It might actually happen this year. All right. So one of the ideas.
Are you still thinking of having some of the presenters be virtual, or just all of it?
I do, because there's so many interesting people. And one of the things that I want to do with it is I want it to be a good excuse for us to record demos and walkthroughs and quick, like, this is where Emacs is now. These are the cool things. These are the inspiring things that you can do with it. That was one of the things I really liked about the Emacs conference in 2013, and these hangouts. You get a peek into how other people have built things, the possibilities of it, and I'm hoping that no matter where people are, and even if they can't make it on that day, we can always schedule some other time to have a hangout like this, to have that snapshot of where Emacs is.
Agreed. Yeah, keep it going. I'm looking forward to it.
Yes. So this is mainly for convincing all the people who can't be bothered to write blog posts, which is one of my personal crusades, to get more Emacs geeks writing blog posts and doing videos and coming on Hangouts and stuff like that. Anyway, there were a couple. Go ahead. Yes, Sean is laughing because I make him write blog posts about stuff. Okay, so one of since a couple of people mentioned
local there, Sean, you need to move away.
I know. Workflow improvements was one of the things that a couple of people were interested in, and at the last Emacs Hangout, we briefly talked about the idea of like having people voluntarily put themselves in the hot seat, maybe demonstrate their workflow, and other people can pick up tips, or other people can offer tips. Now, is this something people are brave enough to experiment with today? You don't have to have like a formal presentation or anything. You might just say, this is a thing that I do like 10 times a week, and it's driving me crazy.
I could do some limited stuff. I don't have non-proprietary code prepared much, but I think I've got one or two open source things that I could show, just kind of some pain points.
Awesome. If you want to share your screen, there's a thing on the left side when you hover over the Google Plus window. It's a green monitor icon with an arrow pointing to the right.
See it? I'm clicking it. It's my first time in a Hangout. Let me see if I can figure this out. All right. This top one looks promising.
All right. I can see your desktop.
You see my screen? Excellent. Let's switch over here. So I'll do a really quick example, I guess, just to start with. Let's get out of org mode. Let's use some random game project. So I work in a lot of different languages. Since I do freelancing, I've got different clients I work with. So I'm in Unity and Android, doing server dev, all kinds of stuff like that. And one example of a common pain point for me in game dev is there are a lot of environments on a lot of platforms that are really tied to their own IDE or their own editor. So things like if you're building for consoles, you're in Visual Studio all the time. If you're in Unity, they've got their own editor. Android, you're going through Eclipse. iOS, you're going through Xcode. Besides Visual Studio, I'm not really a huge fan of any of them, although Unity isn't really an IDE, I guess, but they've got their own silly scene editor thing. So as one really quick example, something where you might expect to say, okay, I'm going to make a code change here, blah, 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 save, compile, and, probably get my output in another buffer here on the side, for example. But when I'm forced to go through an IDE, I end up with a workflow where it's like, okay, I'm alt-tabbing over to Unity, for example, taking those code changes I just put in, and if I'm lucky, I can get all the way through with keyboard shortcuts, but it's still not great. At the end of the day, I'm still hitting play here and saying, okay, here are my tests running. Cool, I get to see the results from that code change that I just made. So that's one silly, contrived example. And I feel like for really simple systems development, where you're not really doing, 3D stuff and editing scenes and stuff like that, I should be able to get it a lot more like doing make at the command line and being able to wrap that in a way like Unity could. And lots of these editors have batch modes, and a lot of it is just that I haven't actually made the steps to go out and say, okay, I'm going to write a mode or write a few simple functions to actually wrap that in a shell and bind it to a few keystrokes in Emacs. So a lot of it, admittedly, is laziness on my part rather than ignorance, but some of it's ignorance too. So that's, repeat that for not really Visual Studio, but repeat that for Xcode and working in Objective-C. Repeat that for Java or Android development, working in Eclipse or Android Studio, which is one of the bigger pain points for me, I guess, just in terms of integration and coding in Emacs overall. And that's one of the big ones for me.
So does anyone have any suggestions? How about the compile command? Is that something that you use?
I haven't in many years. Most of the languages that I work with recently, far as I know, don't have decent support. I've tried in Java pulling up, working with like eclim or the sedit package and whatnot, and most of those I'll bang my head against for a day and then just bounce off of and give up pretty much. Particularly Java, I feel like there's a lot of friction getting in, and that kind of getting over that initial hump, and it's never really gotten there for me. Whereas I've gotten to a decent setup with, for example, Ruby or Python, kind of the more terse dynamic languages. Those I've had a good time with. JavaScript as well. But the bigger nasties like C# and Java in particular have always given me issues.
What operating system are you typically running on?
Nowadays, usually I'm on macOS. Stop screen sharing.
Because I run
I've used Windows quite a bit in the past too. Usually, most of it's on macOS since I'm doing a good amount of server development, and that lets me cover server and client pretty easily.
Yeah, because I kind of run the same sort of thing with, well, just about everything is that way anyway. But what I've done is hook the save mode up to kick off programs like compiles and
Sure.
That sort of stuff. So just hooking in a hook like that may help as well.
Yeah, and I think part of it also is that at least on the client side, there's a little bit more on the server side, but like client-side game developers and Emacs is a pretty rare cross-section, I think, just because there's friction like this. A lot of people just use whatever editor is tailored to their platform. So I'm a weirdo, I guess, in that regard. But part of that may be an opportunity. That means there's not a lot of stuff out there, and it may be easy for me to get a few small wins by writing, for example, simple bindings for the Unity editor to actually kick off builds and things like that. And it's just not something I've had the... Honestly, I've had the time. I just haven't gotten off my ass and done it. So I should probably do that.
Sure.
I'm looking at this previous Emacs chat that I had with Yanis Mancevic, and he was talking to me about org mode and literate programming with the export out to Unity. But he was doing what you basically should, where you edit it in Emacs and you just Alt-Tab or whatever to switch to the Unity workspace, because then that, I guess, recompiles it or whatever.
Yeah, and I know it's absolutely doable because they've got a batch mode that you can use, like in continuous integration systems and whatnot. So it's absolutely a thing. It's something I could plug in. I just need to do it. It's probably fairly simple. But yeah, at the same time, again, independently of Unity and game dev specifically, for me, just kind of the big
C#.
Yeah, C# and Java, and in particular, every now and then I feel like every 3 or 4 years I come back to Java and Emacs and go like, okay, has anything happened that I've missed? Has it, is it somehow easy and doable now? And the answer is always no. I end up taking a day and just throwing my hands up and going back to the old workflows.
Does anyone here have to deal with Java?
How do you spell that?
Java? Not BBA. Sometimes it feels like it.
I did a long time ago, but at the time I was just using make and compile, and it all worked pretty well.
Yeah, with a lot of the build tools, like with Maven and whatnot, kicking off a Maven command to go execute things, or even in Clojure with line, this sort of stuff. Yeah, if you could just get that one thing running. I pasted in the chat a link to, because I've run across this so many times that I finally just started investigating save mode hooks and that sort of stuff, so that I could just have each of my projects kick off some sort of a script where I could put that sort of stuff in. I don't know if that could help out or not.
I see your blog post. I'll take a look. It's going in the bookmarks.
I have a little save mode hook just for Emacs Lisp mode to recompile a file whenever I save it. I don't know if I'd want to do it for a large Java project for each file I save, but you know, having MX compile on a key binding was pretty easy.
Oh, true enough. Yeah, and tying that way, that may be another hook. I mean, there's so many hooks to throw something fun on.
I just pasted in the chat link to guard Java. When I work in Ruby, sometimes I'll use guard, so it monitors the file changes. It's outside Emacs, so it monitors the file changes and it kicks off whatever compiler or, in my case, testing cycles that I need. So that might be a different approach to try as well. You know, to have an external process monitoring file changes and kicking off your compiles.
Yeah, that's cool.
You said you looked at the current state of Emacs, but the old one, at least, that was always being developed, and I just looked, still is, I guess, was JDEE, was the Emacs IDE for Java?
Yeah, I've that's JDE and Setet usually. I end up both pulling in and trying and just falling over. I don't know what it is.
I guess that's if you want like the IDE type IntelliSense autocompletion type things.
Yeah, that wouldn't hurt.
I mean, for me, the only thing I really ever wanted was compile and enough so that next error worked and could bring up a file, you know, the error and the line number.
Mm-hmm.
And that should work pretty easy just from any Java compiler.
Yeah, I think a lot of it is just kind of around the project bindings, in my experience. You know, making sure all the libraries that are supposed to be tied in are tied in and whatnot. And so, yeah, I think for doing a simple command line build probably wouldn't have an issue. But when I'm depending on, I've got a client who's got an Eclipse project that I have to try and figure out how to deal with, and it gets nastier. I think that may be a big part of it. But yeah, I'll try taking another look there. And yeah, another one also I forgot to mention is I'm always bad about company mode. Is another one where I never quite get all the way out to the edges in terms of getting it working with the odd language. C++ very easy. C# haven't gotten there. Java haven't gotten there, but I'd love to. And I again haven't spent enough time. But if anyone knows of someone with a good working setup, I would love to copy. Or I can just get off my ass for that one too.
It looks like quite a few people have posted some packages or configs related to C# in Emacs. There's one like if you have an OmniSharp server, you can do things.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It's not a language I have much experience in.
It's not a bad language. I have some things to say about the framework it runs on, but the language itself is pretty cool.
Okay.
I'm digging through the guard links from chat. I need to play with it. I never have.
Cool. All right.
I've got my action items at least. Cool. Thanks. I'll dig in.
It can be really frustrating sometimes. You're trying to piece things together from documentation and other people's blog posts, and you're like, it's just like not quite there. So
it's gotten a lot better recently. I think the wave in the past few years of people actually sharing solid config setups and doing either with or without literate programming has made it a lot easier to learn. For me personally, I've used Emacs for about 15 years, and not until the very past year did I go back and really take a hard look at my init setup and start refactoring. And it was bad originally. I had the worst setup. For some reason, when I started, I thought it would be a great idea to say, okay, I'm going to take all my hooks, and I'll put them over here, and I'm going to take all my functions, and they're going to have their section over here, and just kind of did this bizarre by language division of things and ran with that for a decade. And just only recently kind of stepped back and looked at some of the more widespread open shared configs out there and was like, what have I been doing? This is awful. And so recently I went back and just shuffled it back all around. So now it's like, okay, here's my Git setup. That's all in one place. Here's my C# setup. That's all in one place, and it's a lot more coherent. I used Steve Purcell's setup as inspiration, and just kind of things like that. I think just reading around and seeing what other people are doing helps a lot.
Yeah, it also helps to try to get rid of the cruft. That's what I've noticed when I threw everything in an org mode file. It's just easier to kind of see the forest for the trees.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely. That was, and another thing which I started doing after I played Swiss Ashes, I think, is I had a bunch of things which were doing things with multiple key, sort of multiple key settings, and started using hydras for those, and there are now several more. I did it just with a test of one thing, and there are now several more, and it's a lot easier and simpler, and so that was. So yeah, as you say, the looking around at what other people have done, there are some good examples out there now, which is nice.
And contributing to this, like what other people have done, is also really helpful. Ian, if you find that your experience is like you pick things up and then you get frustrated and then you end up revisiting it maybe a year or two afterwards, I do find that even for the things I haven't completely figured out, writing a blog post that kind of explains what I've got figured out so far and where I'm getting stuck is really helpful because it gives me notes that I can refer back to later on, and that way I don't have to have these partial things in my Emacs config while waiting to figure that out. And B, often when I describe this like complicated thing that I'm trying to do in order to solve something, someone will pass by in a comment and say, "Oh, do you know about this like one line?" So if you haven't blogged about the challenges you're experiencing yet, I recommend it.
Yeah, I only started using org mode in the past year or so for anything beyond simple outlining. Now that I'm a little bit more plugged in, it'd probably be a lot less friction actually getting stuff posted online. So I may try and get that loop working. I could always live stream my frustrations too. That might be a little funnier. I don't know.
We might quite enjoy that.
You could. Yes.
I don't know if that would be safe for work.
Well. Okay. Shall we? Does anyone else have any other interesting workflow tips, questions, ideas?
I just wanted to mention, my name is Swaroop, as an introduction. I just wanted to thank Howard because the last Hangout recording that I watched, he mentioned Space Emacs, and I've been jumping into it, and I've added an ERC layer, and I just like my whole Emacs setup is completely changed for the better. So I just got to know about it because of this Hangout. So I just wanted to thank Howard and Sacha and all of you for that.
Wow, it looks like that the link that you posted into the text chat with Space Emacs support for C#. It looks pretty interesting as well. So maybe that'll be helpful for you.
Yeah, I'm not a SpaceMax user, but I'm definitely going to see if I can pull anything in. Thanks for that.
Sure.
Yeah, I actually haven't used it either, but I think I'd push it on people who are coming over from different worlds.
Yeah, I had attended the first Emacs San Francisco meetup, I think last week, and a lot of people are Vim users who are trying to look for tips or something better, and they were at an Emacs meetup, and when I showed them evil mode, and they were like mind blown.
Yes, it is really interesting. We actually do have evil plans for taking over the world. So Space Emacs is Space Emacs is one of those like big packages, configuration thingies. Has anyone else come across any interesting packages lately that might be useful to add to one's config?
I came across a new pull request in SpaceMax for GNU Global. I never heard of that before, but apparently it does a really good job of CTAX kind of things. If I can find the link, I'll post it. Has anyone used GNU
Oh,
Global?
this is the GG tags that John Wheatley was talking about. Apparently, he's a big fan, and on one of these future hangouts with him, he's traveling at the moment, which is why he couldn't make it to this one. I've got to get him to demonstrate this. But I hear it's very good for jumping around and finding things.
Oh, cool. I plan to check it out too.
You know, I've been completely forgetting to update my org timer minutes for today's chats. Sorry, let me go catch up now. Anyway, keep talking.
I guess I can add another thanks to the list for Howard because I've started to use his tabling in org mode, doing the sums and keeping track of figures. So I'm slowly migrating my weekly budget thing over to org mode. It's taking a bit of time, but I had no idea how to do it, and then I saw his blog post come up in RSS, and I thought, that's interesting. And then he demoed it in the Hangout, so I noted it all down, and it's working great. So thanks for that.
Excellent.
Maybe we should get Howard to demo more interesting things, like that the database interactions that he's just blogged about.
You want me to?
You feel like going for it?
I can.
Bring it on. That way it gets recorded and other people can see it actually happening, assuming you have non-proprietary data to share it with.
Yeah, let's hope so. Let's see. Okay, so can everyone see my screen?
Yep, I can see it.
Great. So basically the trick that I found out, and I'm not sure if anybody had seen the blog post that I did, but you can set up these a drawer of properties, and the properties that I was using finally figured out how to get it all working. So my database is running in a data center, and I would SSH to the system and port forward 3306, the port, onto my local host. So that's why the database host here is localhost. However, the trick that I needed to have was this line here. This is passing on to MySQL a command line saying, hey, use the TCP port, since if the database, if you put localhost, normally it tries to use a file system like socket as opposed to actually TCP. So this was the trick that I could have so that I could actually do SQL statements. Yeah, so I can just hit Control-C twice, and it'll go execute this SQL command through that connection and pull up the results in this table here that allow me to let's see here, this image property one is pretty interesting. Let's run that. Oh, well, okay then. Here's all the details about, the columns and the types, and it kind of gives me some ideas, and it's like, oh, well, I also want to know this one, so let's take a look at that. This has a lot more in it. And all of these, in this case, it's passing it directly into MySQL, so you can use all the MySQL kind of stuff that, the crazy backtick stuff or whatever MySQL needs. I generally try to keep my SQL pretty straightforward. But and then the nice thing is I can name these things, and then I could do a spreadsheet like this where I can grab that information and then from the different queries, and then in this case I'm dividing them so that I could find out the number of properties per images as I was trying to investigate this database. So how's that? Any questions?
Super cool.
yeah, it certainly saved me a lot of time as I could just run through this, and I even did it with a couple of colleagues where we were bantering back and forth as regarding it's like, oh, what about doing this kind of a query, and I could just type it up in real time and save it and show it. Show the result, and then we could discuss it and analyze it more and keep on going. So yeah, I've got I thought it was a fantastic idea.
Yeah, that's really neat. I've just started on a new code base, which is 6 years old, and everything you would expect from that, really. And I had and it's a Ruby on Rails thing, and I had talked with Tasha about that directly execute code from snippets and an org mode thing, and now I'm reminded of that. I want to get. I mean, there are all sorts of that was very useful because tomorrow I'm going to be doing quite a bit of. I expect I'll have a go doing quite a bit of that on this code base and on the data in it, and so that was a very useful reminder. Thank you.
I can do a package if you guys want.
Bring it on.
Assuming no one has shown the new Stack Exchange package yet. Have you seen sx.el? I think it just came out this week.
Go for it. Haven't seen it yet.
This one's nice because it does not require a change in your workflow or anything like that. Let me share my screen. It's real simple. All right. Hopefully you're seeing my screen now.
Yep.
So it's just sx.el. It's on Melpa. I've already got it installed, but let me just show you really quickly how it works. The GitHub link, before I forget, let me throw the GitHub link into the chat just so you guys have it. There you go. Okay, so basically you get a bajillion different commands. I don't even know what half of them are, and I don't even have shortcuts down yet, but the big obvious one, so it's SX is the prefix, and the big easy one is tab all questions, which first prompts you for a Stack Exchange site. So obviously we're gonna go look at the Emacs Stack Exchange. Pops it right up, and this all interfaces with their API, and just pulls up the same data that you would see sitting on their website, but it gets you super quick, easy interface to actually browse stuff. So for example, I can say, and you can ask questions, you can reply, you can go to comments. So let's say, okay, how do we remove a link in org mode? Just hit return and go look through there. So here's the question someone's asking. You can either click on the add a comment button or run whatever command. C, I guess, is the shortcut to comment on it. I have no idea, so I'm not going to comment. But then you can see down to where someone's actually answered, and you get your answer right there. So that's actually a really cool use case just for Emacs questions, is going and actually searching Emacs on Stack Exchange and pulling stuff up really quickly. And then when you're done, you back out. You can go to something else, or just quit out and go back to whatever you were doing. And that's it. So you can grab it from Melpa, and they've got all kinds of fancy commands that let you get into it more quickly. So if you want to say, okay, I just want to look straight at this tag in this this subsection or whatever. And then really easy upvoting, really easy downvoting, which is a little bit scary. It's just single keys for each of those. And really easy commenting and asking questions and whatnot. So if you use Stack Exchange and a really efficient interface sounds handy, that's kind of a neat little standalone package. I thought it was fun.
That's awesome.
So this reminded me of a package I'd heard about before that searches code from Stack Overflow and pastes it into Emacs. It turns out it's called How Do I -Emacs, where you just type in what your question is, and you call the command, and it pastes in whatever code was in the answer of the thing. So yeah.
Well, that is one of the beauty things about that sort of thing, is you can easily hit a Control-X, Control-E if the code happens to be, ELIS code. Don't know about running anything else though.
I think the how do I Emacs is really just for pasting things in. So it's kind of like you could do the Stack Exchange search. Actually, and the interface there looks really slick, which is cool. Or you could just kind of, I'm feeling lucky, the Stack Overflow answer.
Okay, so I've installed this Stack Exchange. What was the first command that you kicked off to get it going?
Sorry, so the initial setup, there's actually a quick setup step that you have to do. I think it's documented on the... Actually, you can probably just run that first command. It was... hold on, it's SX tab all questions. Let me give you the screen share here real quick. You see it right here?
Got it. I'm running it myself right now.
And that should prompt you. I think it'll pop your browser open and make you do a grab an auth token, but then it should work.
Brilliant. Thanks for that.
No problem.
Sean, since you mentioned Hydra, I'm not sure if other people have come across that yet, but what are some of the things that you use Hydra for?
Well, there was the initial. I forget which one it was now for, but there was the thing for opening all sorts of projects and subdirectories. There are various directories. There's other org node subdirectories. So there's one for that, which is probably the largest one. It's got 10 or 12 in. And what else? Hang on a second. For some reason in Ruby tools, I wasn't getting the switch something from a symbol to a single quoted string to a double quoted string. I mean, there were some abbreviations, there was a command, but the keyboard shortcut was not quite working for me, so I added a Hydra for that as well, which is probably more Ruby specific than anything else. And oh, there was mode switching. I started watching the John Weagley thing, and I'm sorry, I may not be pronouncing his name correctly, and was looking at adding Paradit mode and other things. And I have my org mode, my Emacs file in org mode, and putting it into Emacs list mode. After that, I was unable to do the org Babel tangle and have it exported. So I just added something to quickly.
Should you be using Control-C quote in order to edit source blocks instead of switching to Emacs list mode?
And have it pop up in separate.
Yeah,
I could do that too.
Well, it allows you to kind of go to town on a special mode, for each individual language.
The other thing you can do is you can always clone an indirect buffer. So that lets you mess about with your mode while still keeping another copy of the same buffer in the original mode.
Okay. Oh, lovely. Yes. Okay. And because the source is defined as Emacs list anyway, the other buffer goes on Control-C quote. The other buffer is in the correct. Lovely, neat. Okay, thank you. That was more of a demonstration of ignorance than a demonstration of anything.
No, that's totally
but that
cool.
was anyway, so thank you.
I find that it's only when you start explaining what you do that other people are like,
Oh, right. As you said earlier, you could do this other completely simpler.
Yeah. Would anyone else like to have this enlightening experience?
Yeah, I still don't have enough Hydra lines. Just what's on the standard thing, but those are useful enough.
What other things are people trying to learn or improve about Emacs? Like what are you getting the hang of?
Well, I recently started moving stuff over to Cask, where Cask is basically a way to have a file that says I want these packages installed, and then you run a command outside of Emacs to install them all. And I don't know that I really have any, problems with it right now. Just, it's just brand new to me, but it's something that's pretty cool because it's a lot more declarative than like going in by hand into the list packages buffer and saying, oh, install this one, and you can update everything pretty easily. So I've been having fun with that too.
Yeah, I've been wondering if I wanted to change over since I've got ancient Lisp little functions that I've been using forever to do that same thing. It's just whether it's worth it.
I was. Well, actually, I was using Batsol's the load packages thing from Batsol's Emacs configuration, and then I needed to use Runner to run tests on Emacs Lisp code, and that's how I ended up switching a few months ago. So I'm also new on that. And enjoying it. I just put the SX thing into my Cask file as we were speaking earlier, so that was simple and straightforward.
I'm a little partial to the use package since it also allows me to, in addition to declaring that my Emacs should install this package, it also lets me group my config for that package, which just has some neater syntax and eval after load. So I'm still using it in the wrong way. Based on this other hangout that I recorded with John Wigley, he's gotten his Emacs boot up time to some like really low number, really fast speed, whereas I'm still like load everything, right? But use package might be another thing to look into if you're looking into the say this is list of packages I want.
So, Sasha, are you installing this or you're setting up the use package calls in multiple locations based on what you're then declaring? Is that how you're using it, did you say?
So the way that I use it for what basically people, I guess, are using Cask for is I say, use package, then the name of the package, ensure T. And the ensure says basically if the package hasn't been installed yet, go and find it and install it. So that's kind of the dependency of Cask, I guess. And then there are all sorts of things you can do. You can tell it to do, like only do the system type is Windows or Mac or whatever. So there are lots of things you can do with it. But it's kind of like by the time. That Emacs, like Cask is great if you want the packages to be there and you have this like lovely environment that you can test things in very quickly, and you don't want to, I guess, pollute your, like if you're testing things a lot, you want to be able to have these different environments to test in. Whereas use package I think of more as just convenience to get around the package installs.
Yeah, it kind of sounds like my homegrown solution.
With use package, because I haven't actually started using it yet, but when you're talking about you define a package and set the value to true, so if it's not there, Emacs will go and find the package. Does it automatically know how to query, say, Melpa and pull the package from that, or is that something you have to define for you to use?
Yeah, I set it up. Let me increase my font size here. So visible now? Thereabouts. Yeah, okay. So you still have to set up your package archives. In this case, I get things from Melpa. And then from there, you can say use package ensure T. And that says, if I'm in a system that doesn't have autocompile, go and install it. Now, of course, you do actually have to have the use package itself installed first, but once it's there, then you can use this nice syntax for everything else.
Excellent. It's just because I guess like a lot of people, I'm using Git too. I haven't gotten to the stage where I'm using like or Babel or anything to manage my config. So I'm still just using the .emacs file in my home directory for the time being, just till I come to grips with things. So obviously I use Emacs on my work machine and then at home on my machine. So, you know, and they both have use package already installed. So if I find something cool and install it at home, you know, I want to be able to just like commit that to Git and when I come home just update and
Yeah,
you know,
there's
voila.
certainly advantages to that too. It's different ways.
But yeah, I do have the same set of initialization scripts that work on all of my devices and all, which are different OSs even. And it is nice that whenever one of them crashes, it doesn't take long to get back to sanity.
Question about use package, which I don't see this answered on its page. Does it update the packages for you? Like once it's installed, if in a week a new one is released, do you get the new one?
No, it doesn't do that automatically because that's kind of scary, I guess. But I've heard good things about using Paradox to update things asynchronously. So that might be something to look into. Paradox?
Okay.
Yeah, the problem though is depending on your source, you could get something that doesn't quite work, and then everything goes to hell quickly. So
that's why it's scary.
I only do an update of all packages when I know I have an hour to kill.
Hey guys.
And I guess that's an argument for going the Git way.
What's going on?
Hey. What's up? We were just talking about interesting packages that people have come across and installed, and also package management. So we went into a discussion about use package and cask and whatever. So welcome. Is there anything in particular you? It is also totally okay to lurk until next topic of conversation comes up.
Okay. Does anybody want to talk about Tupac?
The what?
Tupac? Everybody says he's still alive, but I'm not sure.
Okay, so let me rephrase. Another Emacs-related topic of conversation comes up.
Okay.
Although you can probably relate Emacs to everything. So let's give it a try. How would you relate Emacs to Tupac?
Well, I don't know. I don't know what Emacs is.
Okay, so this might not entirely be the hangout for you unless we want to convert him.
Does someone want to explain?
How did you come across this?
Hangouts.
Ah, I see. Okay, so we are talking about a rather flexible and quite powerful text editor, but it is a little unusual. So if you search for Emacs, E-M-A-C-S, then you can go explore that. But it might, I don't know, is this something in like a short hangout? There is apparently an Emacs song. Has anyone heard this Emacs song?
I think Zachary might have.
What is going on there?
No, I just did a quick search and just found the lyrics. On the
Wow.
and unsurprisingly, a lyrics mode.
Oh, wait, I have a cat. All right. In that case, let us carry on then. So, okay. Emacs packages, workflow questions, ideas, that sort of thing.
So I've got a question.
Yeah.
I'm relatively new to packages. I just started using list package and etc. a couple of months ago. Are people using just Melpa or Melpa stable?
And now you're starting to see kind of the interesting dynamics here.
Yeah.
Since there are some that are very stable that that seldom get updated, and others that get updated with every Git commit. So one thing that you'll notice is if you add multiple sources, like I've got 4 in mine, when you do a list package, you can sometimes get 4 different entries, that are different versions. So you can kind of choose which one you think is going to be the best. Because sometimes you want the latest version, and other times you just want something that's safe.
So yeah, real mix.
Yeah, I often find that for the most part, the latest version works okay. Just, sometimes it takes like, uh-oh, this one's not working right. Something slipped through a Git commit, so backing up,
And the thing that really threw me when I first started was that, and it surprises me, that packages are loaded after the .emacs is run.
You can set up your config in eval after load or things like that.
Yeah.
Or or you can use package initialize to get them loaded before that, but then it gets a little complicated.
And I guess use package solves some of this.
Yeah, so use package, what it does is it'll still wait for the packages to be loaded after your Emacs loads, but you can tell it to run certain code when the package is initialized or other things like that, or you can say like kind of bind these keys and define the autoloads automatically,
right.
So that even if you're not using the package system, even if you're using packages that you've installed manually or that you have in a Git repository, at least it'll take care of the load path and the whatchamacallits for you, the autoloads for you.
I guess so. I've just been using an old config for a long time that I've prune every 5 years or so. And I did look at your last conversation about use package, and I was like, all right, it looks fine. I'm not sure it's much better than what I have that actually works for me, but yeah.
If your stuff works, keep it, right? I mean,
right.
people probably have configs that are decades old.
Yes.
Hopefully, we've updated them a little bit since college.
Yeah, a little bit.
One of the things that I like about something managing it that isn't just going to the packages buffer list and manually going through and saying install this one, install that one, is you have this file that's like a record of it, or a file that you can use. So if I go to my laptop, I don't have to say, well, I installed a package 2 weeks ago. What was it? I can say, oh, here's this file that, whether it's cached, whether it's use package or whatever, go and computer, you do it. You're good at repeating things a lot. Humans aren't. So that's one of the benefits of using some tool for it, whatever that tool is.
Right.
And even just the sheer, I have I just heard about this interesting package. Instead of having to go and hunt it down and, add it to your load path and go compile it and all that stuff, it is nice just to be able to say package install or add it to the list and things like that.
It has been pretty nice, I agree.
Stability-wise, I've found that Melpa is usually fine. I only use, the kind of really big packages, but I've never needed to hop on stable personally. Again, that's anecdotal. If you're really afraid of breaking changes, no reason you can't, check the results into a repo or whatnot and get yourself the ability to roll back that way.
Right.
Yeah, well,
I never have, but you could.
Yeah, whenever you update packages, it asks you afterwards, do you want to delete them? And it always gets the latest one. So you can always just pop into the .emacs.d directory /elpa and delete a problem child. So it's not a big deal, but
that's true. And when you keep old versions, you can revert really easily too. Yeah.
Cool.
But yeah, with the internet and its proliferation that started not too long ago, getting interesting Lisp code for our Emacs configuration files is a big difference from when I was in college and everything had to be handcrafted.
Wow. I'm just waiting for the, kind of smart background noise. Hang on a second.
Is that me?
Yeah, that's you.
Oh,
I'm just waiting for the, kind of automatic suggestions. People like you also use this Emacs Lisp code. I mean, we should be able to do this kind of stuff now, right?
Yeah, excellent. That would be good.
I don't think so.
No? Oh, yeah, because then our yak shaving would be like rise to new heights.
Yeah, I wonder what this does. I mean,
Yeah, no, I think we've all been guilty of that. That's half the fun.
agreed.
Well, now that summer's here, we can think about how we can, if we're trying to moderate our yak shaving most days, how we could make a potential Emacs conference the most yak shavy of all days possible this year.
Yeah. So how is my sound coming through? Is it
Perfect
okay?
now. Yes.
Oh, cool. I didn't do anything, so.
Sometimes it takes a little bit to kind of automatically adjust.
Yeah. Yeah. So Sasha and I and like a bunch of people in the community are organizing an Emacs conference, and like I saw like Sasha's post, and like I emailed her, and she was like, "Yeah, well, if you're like an organizer like type of person, then you can put this together." And I'm like, "I'm not, but I want this to happen." So we've like set up like a bunch of infrastructure, and we're gonna stand up like a website today. But the only thing that I like ask of you all is to let people know that Emacs Conf is going to happen like August 22nd, probably in the Bay Area, because that's where we're at, and that's
And
where.
online, because all the people who can't
Oh
travel.
yeah, totally. Like it'll be in the Bay Area. Like we want to do like a live stream.
And if people wanted to organize local meetups too, that's totally cool.
That would be sick. That would be super.
But
cool.
you will definitely start out the tech thing. So if we do have live speakers, they can, and if you have virtual speakers, then kind of cross thing works out.
Yeah.
Well, of course, all the cool conferences come to Portland, Oregon, so.
I mean, yeah, those. Yeah, that was our first choice, but things just didn't work out.
No, I'm teasing.
Yeah, I know.
In the text chat, Sod confesses to be an actual organizer type person. So.
Oh wow.
Experience.
That would be awesome. Yeah. So I have a form that I just posted to the chat, and so this is just like an interest form. The only like required field is your email, so I can email you like as like the plan like unfolds. But yeah, so Sod, I don't know how to pronounce your last name, but yeah, you should, if you fill that out, I will get in touch with you, and like we should like be working together. So the hope for this is that everybody like Emacs Conf is going to be awesome, and we'll also be setting up the infrastructure for Emacs Conf to be easy to put on the next time like we want to do a conference.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, yeah.
On the survey or interest form, it's asking how likely will you go? Does that mean in person or virtually or both?
So for that, I was thinking in person because I was thinking like head count for like how many people we would need a space for.
Maybe, is it too late to fiddle with a form to say, not, but definitely use it's virtual. It's,
Oh yeah.
Maybe a little bit of both.
Yeah, I mean, I can just add that whenever. I can do that soon. Yeah.
And by the way,
I'm easily confused.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Dylan, if you're worried about being not qualified enough to present, I think it's really useful for people to hear from, like, not just people who keep talking about Emacs, but also people who are maybe figuring things out or trying to understand things. I definitely love a talk from a beginner if we can find someone who we can convince to talk about that experience of getting into Emacs and trying things out. And probably, intermediate users definitely have lots of things to share too.
Yeah, definitely.
What I've been doing to wet my feet a bit is I actually did a couple of blog posts just about getting an Emacs and the first couple little things I've tried, or the first packages, and I actually chucked it up on the Emacs subreddit, and I was getting a bit of interest from people obviously far more experienced than me, but I put in there, give me feedback if I'm doing something wrong or right, is there a better way? So it's been really interesting to at least put myself out there as to where I'm at now, and then slowly integrate all these awesome ideas that come across. Like these hangouts are always full of them. So if they ever manage to get to a conference in Australia and I can make it because their country's such a massive place, I'll definitely go and do something, even if it's like a 10-minute sort of flash talk or whatever, and show my config, and then people can take fire. And
Yeah. Well,
It would be nice to have some big monitors with like this Google Hangout and displaying all the real people who are asking questions as well virtually.
Yeah, so my baseline kind of plan, evil plans, right, is worst case scenario is like, the physical conference, because it's April. I was thinking August because it's my birthday, but really I'm not completely wedded to this date. Anyway, worst case scenario is we have this nice long Emacs Hangout where maybe I sit down and I just start reading through all the source code and all the interesting questions in Stack Exchange. And other people can come and hang out with me and say, holy cow, I didn't know Emacs could do that, which is, of course, a moment you always have when you read through the manual or the source code. And then if we get more structured, like people actually giving talks or people brainstorming around Emacs Lisp or config or workflow, then that's even better. But the baseline is there's going to be a hangout.
Well, it would be good to have it physical just because I do owe you a beer, Sasha. But other than that...
Unfortunately, I don't drink alcoholic vegetables. Beverages.
That's a symbolic thing.
Yes, hot chocolate. Here we go. Although I don't really know if you want me around Emacs and sugar at the same time, so this could be dangerous. Yes, and definitely meeting a lot of Emacs geeks in person was one of the highlights of that 2013 conference, because really, like 80 plus Emacs geeks in one room is kind of mind-blowing. So I would like other people to have that experience as well.
Yeah, I mean, I'm super excited for it. Yeah, I have to run in a sec because my work, like, we're having like an event. But yeah, if any of you all are like interested in helping out, like, so like from like the Emacs community, we need people who like want to give talks, and it's like you all were saying, like all perspectives on Emacs are interesting just because Emacs is cool, and so like beginners, intermediates, like John W. level people, like all sorts of like skill levels, like everyone has something to contribute. And
sometimes people don't know what they can contribute, which is why we started putting together an outline of ideas, and if you recognize any of them as something to talk about, please do.
Yeah, and then
you just have to have my literate DevOps thing on that list.
That's good. That is on the list.
That's my pet peeve for months now.
Yeah, it's on there. And so let me post the site, but it's emacsconf.github.io/emacsconf2015, and that's where our plan is. So it's like a public planning document. But we also need people like to volunteer to like help us like corral all the cats in like the Emacs community, and like I don't know, Emacs is like a community, like the community owns the editor, and the same is true of like the conference. Like anyone who wants to help out like can have a role. So just if you fill out the form, I can send you a quick email and reconnect with you. But I do have to go.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, thanks. Let me just post the link.
Yeah, that was a little bit on the long side for that link.
Yeah.
There we go. Great, thank you.
But yeah, see y'all.
All right. It would be really cool, kind of, get that, where is Emacs today, and really just have more excuses to bring the community together, because the Emacs community is like super cool. I'm also really curious about weird uses of Emacs. So, for example, I recently installed the eSpeakF speech synthesizer, and I remember using Emacs Speak to do stuff before, like read my mail to me. And I was thinking, if I'm getting into yoga, it'd be really nice to have something like an org mode table with the poses and the times, and it would just tell me what to do at the appropriate times and then display this big timer. Because I couldn't find an app to do this. Anyway, so org mode, timer. Org timer actually seems like it could do the trick. But yes, crazy uses of Emacs, right?
That's probably the craziest idea I've heard. Yeah, obviously it's easiest to write an Emacs
So
program.
for example, I recently installed the Oop, someone's got a. Okay, there you go. Oh, it's structured, semi-structured data, and you can play MP3s from Emacs using EMS.
Yeah, I use it all the time for that.
So I can do another funny org mode anecdote. Org mode is too easy for this because it reaches so far out of the editor. So since I started org mode, I'm a lifelong hobbyist musician, and I started bass in the past year. So I've been using org mode to track practice times and org habit to poke me to actually practice on a regular basis. And it's really amazing. The motivation to not see the red dot show up really gets you moving. So it's been great for that. And I'm also using it for getting back into strength training and actually tracking, okay, am I lifting heavy things often enough, and that sort of stuff. So it's bizarre how far outside of the realm of coding it's started to reach. And obviously Emacs has always been more general purpose than that. But org mode, I think, kind of creeps its way into your life a lot more easily.
I think it was at the 2018 conference that I saw Sam Aaron's demo of Emacs Live, where I think he was doing music in org mode.
Nice.
Yeah, because synthesizers and stuff and headings and anyway. Actually, that might be an interesting segment. Are there other crazy Emacs anecdotes that people have or want to share? Bye, Howard. Alternatively, we could just wrap up now, and so that people who are watching the replay don't have to sit through like 2 hours of people talking about Emacs. How are you feeling today? Do you think we have more questions that we want to cover, or shall we wrap it up here and maybe see people again? And there's another one in 2 weeks, so if you have questions between now and then, you can always bring it up then too.
For me, that might be an idea. I've just started a new job, so I'm aware that I'm contributing less than I would like to be. So I'm good with that.
All right. Any parting words? Any last-minute questions?
I guess in 2 weeks, I'll hopefully get to take a crack at it before then. But I'm really interested in this whole moving your config to org mode and using Babel to pass it and that sort of thing. So I've only fleetingly read a little bit here and there about how it's done. I don't know whether I'll get time because of school holidays and work's pretty busy. But if I don't make it then and someone has got it down pat and can able to demonstrate how they made that initial jump, I think that's the hardest thing for me is people demonstrate something like, oh, that's very cool, but you don't see the hard work and the changes and the little bit of piece-by-piece configuration sort of adjustment they've done to get to that really good point.
Yeah.
So,
is your config available on GitHub? Is your config available on the internet? Because it would be fun to just fork it and kind of go through modifying it together.
Not yet, but I can do that. I'll get it up on GitHub or something like that, and people can have a poke around. There's nothing sensitive in it that I have to worry about yet, so.
All right. You can table that as an interesting thing to explore during the next one or the next Hangout.
Excellent.
Yeah, no, I may have done that the most recently because I did it about a month or 2 ago. So yeah, I could certainly, For me, the pain points and how the hell does this work is might be the most recent. So I can talk about that in 2 weeks if. Yeah, sure.
Awesome. Okay. The next one is. Let's go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say, is for this conference that you guys are doing, I'm more than happy to help out with in any way I can here. I just wondered if you've got Google Docs or anything that you're using. Are you using shared docs for that, or?
Well, there's a GitHub repository which I've transferred to.
Okay, I missed that.
Naturally, it's an org file. Again, I've transferred over to the Emacs Conf organization. One word. So if you search for Emacs Conf on GitHub, you should find it.
Okay, cool.
And then you can either just submit patches. I don't know. Email me if you have problems with that sort of thing.
No worries.
Yeah. So.
I'd be keen on, as I say, and if Dylan's also keen, having something local,
Yes.
more local to our end of the globe, and it would be probably wise to sort of make something that's sort of consistent with your one as well, and just
Yes,
maybe
for
work
sure.
together.
Yeah, that was one of the things that every time I hear about the interesting things that are happening in the London and New York meetups, and I guess San Francisco now has one too. I was like, ooh, I want everyone to be able to enjoy those experiences, no matter where they are, or even if they're the only Emacs user in 100 kilometers, which, Dylan, may not be true, depending on how far south is, right?
Well, I hope not.
Do you have any idea, Sasha, how many Emacs users there are globally? I know this is like impossible. But,
I have
like,
no
are we talking
idea.
thousands, or would anyone like to hazard a guess?
Well,
Yeah.
more than 8.
More than eight.
More than 80.
'Cause
Probably at
obviously
least.
that's knowing your market is probably the
Yeah.
first thing, and learning venues and things like that.
I don't know, maybe tens of thousands. I don't know. But I don't know how many people would travel or attend live. But my hope is that if it's recorded, then it becomes a resource that we can come back to and take a look at. And especially if it's streamed nicely, then we can actually see the screen, because sometimes videos a little harder to see. Anyway, so that's it'd be great to just make that a resource that people can share afterwards as well. Oh, actually, and also just to capture it, so that in case someone's listening to the recording and knows the answer, we can, you can answer them. Somebody was asking earlier about when you would use Cask and package EL together. But since people were on the way to wrapping up, then we can either just wrap up now and people can answer in the comments on the event page if you happen to have a good thought out answer for that. Or if you have a quick answer, you can sneak it in and then say bye. No quick answers. Okay.
Nothing from me.
I still haven't finished watching the John W thing from earlier this month, so yeah.
All right. In that case, thanks to people who joined us for a very early morning in some parts of the world and afternoons and evenings elsewhere. The next Emacs Hangout is on April 30 at 8 o'clock p.m. Central Eastern Time, which is maybe 2 p.m. Toronto time and 6 p.m. UTC. And then there's one after that, but it'll be announced on the Emacs Conferences and Hangouts Google Plus page. We have a Google Plus page now, so if you're not on the mailing list, you can go find the mailing list from the event page, and there'll be a link to kind of where to find out more information. Thanks everyone for joining.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks. See you guys.
Okay.
Bye.
All right, bye.
Bye.